Hello, good evening, Yash.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, this is Komal here.
Hey, hi, Kamal.
Yeah, hello. Our team is already on the line. I would introduce them by the time to you. Like Sanjeevni is there, Harshita, and Vishal Bhojwani from the marketing team is also here. So this is our team, and our host would be joining in a while. So just give us a moment so she can join, and we will begin it. Will that be okay?
Sure, sure. Hello, everyone.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Yash. Good evening.
Good evening.
And by the time, can you introduce your team to us so that means we will be familiar to that thing, like during the interaction, if we have to come up with someone so we can have them.
Sure, sure. Hi, all. I think because we've interacted, so you all know, I am Yash. I co-initiated this collective called Let India Breathe, and I think others will just go now. Jay, if you could go next, just pass it on.
So I'm Jay from Tamil Nadu, and I'm part of the design team of Let India Breathe. And what we do is we try to our like information is like if it is universal, it could reach everyone, right? So we try to simplify our content, our text. Like it goes through several filters. We ask opinion from experts and everyone, and like we try to simplify the text through several filters, and we make the text very much short so that it could be consumed very easily. And our design also is pretty much basic, and we do most of our work online. We do most of our work on the phone, and whenever we get free time, we try to design stuff on our phone. And what we do is we use bigger texts, a bigger font size, multiple colors to highlight important text. We have secondary texts to attract the audience to find out the important highlighted points. And we do this. And I'm actually I need to go off topic to tell why we are simplifying our texts, and like why we are simplifying our poster design. Uh, the the primary goal of information is it needs to be universal. Information, access to information is power. Actually, people with access to information, they manipulate people. And the let me get back to the topic. The people who are affected from this climate crisis are the underprivileged who have not had access to education, proper education. So English is the universal language, and we need to communicate through English only. So we try to make it very much simple without any intellectual words or complicated sentences, and we don't want it to be poetic also. We just want simple statements to be said, and like it to be heard. And the attention span online also, it is too low, and too much clutter is there online. So people are not consuming information online. So we are taking our inspiration from minimal product advertisements, and like we are replicating the same on our posters actually. And
Yeah, I think Ruhi could go
so
next.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me all?
Yeah, Ruhi.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Ruhi. I'm a member of Let India Breathe, and I contribute on the strategy side and a lot of content on climate change. Yeah, I've been associated with the LIB for approximately a year or something. Yeah, and it's great to meet you all. I'll pass it on to Meher.
Thank you so much, Ruhi. Same here.
Hey guys,
Meher here. I have been, so I contribute with on multiple platforms for LIB, and I'm a veterinarian. And it's really nice to be here and to see all you guys and meet you guys. We're pretty happy about it. So I'm gonna pass it on to Radhika.
Just a second. Sorry for the interruption. Host for today is here, so I will pass it on to Jivita Mudriya. She will be taking the conversation ahead. So Jivita, can you unmute and be on the line?
Yes. Hello everyone. This is Jivita. I couldn't turn on my video due to some technical issue. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So this is Jivita from Casper, and I welcome you all once again. So I would just start the conversation regarding like what a problem.
Just a second. Just admit all our participants by the time you introduce yourself.
Hello.
You can begin, Jivita.
Yeah. So shall I start from the beginning? Yeah.
Yes,
as I already said, this is Jivita, and once again, I'm welcoming you all. So today we have the team of Let India Breathe with us. Just a quick introduction about the Let India Breathe. So it's an organization which is trying to recreate awareness about environmental issues, and we have the whole team with us. Yash and Jay, the co-founders, and Rui, contributor and the strategist. Miss Radhika, Content and Partnership Manager, Miss Meher, Outreach and Content Manager, Miss Mansi, Content Manager, and Rishikesh, Mobilization Lead. Yeah. So I would just start the conversation by this question as, can you just help us with a proper brief introduction about what Let India Breathe does?
Sure.
You can.
So, hi everyone. We started about 2 years ago. I think it was March 2020. And we realized that, when the government has certain plans or projects coming up, they always want to, involve the people. I mean, they don't want to, but that's the rule. So we started it as an initiative to basically, object and suggest to whatever the government is asking to. And we realized that those things may fall flat in the eyes of a lot of people, because they don't even know what is an objection, what is a suggestion, what is the environment, things like that. So which is when we realized, okay, we have to up our game, and also try to include the larger conversations. First start with awareness, and then slowly take people through that process. So yeah, that's how we started, and now we are a nice team. And frankly, this is not all. We have a huge volunteer base out there, and people who give us a lot of love, which we also consider as our team. So yeah, I think that's a short intro.
Yeah. So my another question is, like, we know how environmental issues have been creating so much mess in the society. So like, what according to you is the biggest threat to the environment, like in the coming days or these days are going on?
Ruhi, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So very quickly, current threats, I would say I can't count them any longer, unfortunately, because there's one every day and there's existing ones. So issues around climate and environment in India are definitely very, very out there. And the attention on them is not similar as much as the number of problems. So I think this is where we come from when we say that attention needs to be given on issues around environment and climate change and people. And if I have to name some of them right now, I think we would talk about the the mass deforestation that is going to take place in the next year because of many of the projects being approved in very eco-sensitive zones and biodiversity reserves. As we speak, this last week we have seen the massive Assam gas leak blowout, which resulted into a big fire next to the wetlands and forest. And definitely the environmental assessment impact, which is a big draft notification that is due to pass, or there's a decision to be made by 30th of this month. And along with them, there's lots of issues in every state. As we speak, Western Ghats, Aravalis, the Kakinada mangroves, north, west, east, south, center, everywhere. So I think there are countless issues, and unfortunately, the attention on them is not enough. So this is our attempt to make things a bit more decentralized in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Ruhi, that is perfectly said. So another question is how as a society everyone can are responsible for the degradation of the environment. What specific habits do you think it is actually mainly responsible for this? Anyone from the team can answer.
Radhika?
Yeah, sure. I would like to respond to that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Radhika.
Yeah. Hi. Actually, this way of looking at environmental issues that
Radhika, can
all
you
of
speak
us
up?
are okay. Can you hear?
It's breaking.
Am I audible?
I think. Hello, Radhika.
Yeah, try again.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Better.
Now? Am I audible now? Yeah. So I just switched off my video. Maybe that's screwing up with the bandwidth. Anyway, yeah. So what I was saying was that I have an issue with this habit that we have of assuming that when it comes to environmental degradation, everybody is equally responsible, and that individual habits are a solution to our environmental issues. They are not. They help, of course, and this is not to say that as individuals we don't have responsibilities towards our environment, and it is also not to say that as individuals we cannot make any difference. But at the same time, what needs to be understood is that only looking at individuals as responsible towards environmental degradation would be very problematic. Because when it comes to the environment, what you need to do is you really need to look at the industries. You really need to look at the entire economic model that we have, something that we call as capitalism, right? And unless and until we do not look at our economic models, at our consumerist culture that capitalism promotes, we will never be able to actually solve issues that are resulting in environmental degradation.
Hello. Yeah. So as we know that your organization is something into environmental things, and also Ruhi has just said that the uses of masks and gloves are increasing day by day, and on that particular situation, can you just brief us about how we can do the proper disposal? Is there some ideas do you guys have in your mind, or something which we can do to save our environment? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can.
Meher, would you want to take that?
Yeah, I didn't get the last part of that line. You were talking about the masks and the disposal of those masks, right?
Yeah, I just So do you have any ideas how you can do the disposals and save the environment, or are you coming up with something to save on this?
These disposals, especially of these kind of products which are very medically and have the bacteria laden things, have to be biomedical waste. And that's a totally different ballgame altogether. In fact, if you actually look at how the biomedical waste is currently being disposed of, it's terrible, and we still have to find a system for that. And right now in India, I don't think there is a system, and they are not, even if there is, they're totally not following it. So that's very hazardous, and it has to be taken into consideration. But when it comes to what we do, raising awareness regarding this aspect, it's a little different. So I would say, as like, if you want a suggestion of how to do it, then it needs to be disposed of properly in basically biomedical area wastes, and that are actually taken and incarcerated. So it's different.
So yeah, Mahesh, just one more question. Like I just have a doubt regarding, like, if this situation is not taken care properly, as you said, it has to be taken care, but it is not taken seriously. How is this gonna affect on down the line, like coming years? How this really gonna affect the environment?
You can already see that there are some beaches and some water bodies that are completely filled with masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to go into the water supply. That's going to go into the ecosystems, and that's going to damage that area. So it really needs to be disposed of properly, and there are methods of doing it. So we need to actually hold the people who are responsible of carrying out these systems to be doing it properly.
Also, to add on that, I would also like to mention one of the effects, as Safai Karmacharis have a terrible effect on them when they dispose these masks or these products, bio waste basically. So we also have to take care of that. And Safai Karmacharis are the first ones who get affected tremendously because of this waste, in bacterial waste. Mask, etc.
Okay. So like I believe you guys mentioned about your volunteers thing. So what exactly do these volunteers do?
Jay, would you want to take that up?
Yes, I'll talk. So our volunteers are currently, their primary tasks are design, bringing up content and like shortening it and like doing research on it, fact checks and communicating about it. So what we do is like we get design volunteers and this content volunteers, like we split them into two groups, and the content group, like they some of like their designated tasks, some of them find contents and like some of do fact checks, some of them try to make write-ups on it, and then finally we discuss about the content, like how to simplify it and how to shorten it.
Okay. So as you said that.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Go on. So in the design team, what we do is when the content is final, text is finalized, we get it to the design team, and like they do a like basic design first. Then we discuss about like how to make it better, like how to make it much more like much more efficient, like how could it reach to the underprivileged class, how people would interpret it, and like we discuss a lot about it, and we finalize a totally simplified content.
Okay. So like you said that you have many volunteers. So the one thing I would like to know is like, how do you get on board this volunteer? Like, do you have any kind of criteria that they should belong to, this from college, who is into, environmental or some other social thing? Or is there someone who is willing to join this cause, who is willing to help you, you can just do onboard them?
So I'll tell you something about myself. Like I do designs online. Like I do memes and poster works and everything online, and like I do it on my phone. And I am an amateur. I don't know designing itself. But the primary criteria for our volunteers is like they should be willing to it and willing to do things, and like they should be interested to do things. And if they are primarily interested, we could teach them like how to do designs on phone and things like that, and they could get better doing things, and like they could contribute. This is our primary criteria.
So
Okay.
just
So
about the
anyone?
onboarding part, like when we started, it was just in a way me, and then because I knew Jay and his design skills, then it was us, and then slowly this whole core team which you see here on the panel, we are all volunteers in a way, right? Because it's just an informal collective. So now when that it's almost like a multi-level marketing chain where we realize, okay, so Yash knows these people, Jay knows these people, Rishikesh knows someone else. So we start it's a very conscious decision because we all are at a particular wavelength. It's not like we are always at the same wavelength, but slowly we've understood, okay, what the collective stands for, because it's not like it's very new. It's in a way 2 years old. And when that happens, we all know from our circles people who like doing things like this. And also we gauge people who will be okay with maybe learning, maybe teaching, because in the past say 6 months, with the addition of new members to the core team as well as the volunteer team, we've learned so much together. Because of our social media presence, it's in a way easy for people to message us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are, I mean, if any of us is awake, we will respond. That's how we are. So that's how we onboard people. We ask them, okay, this is this what you want to do, and things like that. Then we ask them for their work. If someone has already done some design work, they will send us, okay, this is what I've done, kind of a thing. But otherwise, someone will just say, I think I can do this, but I'm not too sure. So we'll be like, okay, Jai will talk to you, and he will perhaps know from you how you can learn this better. So that's more or less the volunteer onboarding process.
Okay, so I believe someone who is willing to work, so like he can join your organization and also willing to learn and contribute towards the society. Am I right if I'm not wrong? Yeah?
Always, because at the pace at which we are seeing this, the whole climate breakdown, and as Ruhi rightly mentioned, it's across states, obviously, and across the world. So it definitely takes a lot of toll on all of us कि यार आज ही तो काकीनाडा मैंग्रोव्स का बात किया था, अभी सुंदरबन में कुछ हो गया, that kind of a thing. So in a scenario like this, we always need more and more people to help, and I think yeah, we are doing a good job there in getting more people on board, and we are really thankful to all supporters and other collectives who have faith in us.
Okay. So Yash, you just mentioned about social media, right? And we all know that how social media is booming. How is it helping all the organizations? So how far this social media platforms has helped you with communicating about the environmental issues to the public till now? Like, is it actually reaching out to the public with this social media platform? Or
Sure. I think I would really want Mansi's input here. Mansi, whenever you're done, I'll just, I mean, some of us will, pitch in more. So please take this up.
Could you please repeat that question? Actually, I was reading one of the comments on the chat section. It's a really interesting question.
Yeah, sure, Mansi. My question was like, we all know about the social media thing. How is it like helping all the organizations? So, like, is this platform is actually helping you to communicate with about the environmental issue at the public to the society? Actually,
See, of course, I'll tell you about the demographics of our team. We are a young crowd, and we are mostly trying to get attention from more people from colleges. We even tried schools, working population. So what we do is, when we post, when we make a post on social media, we are mostly seeing how many people are interested. So I am the recent member in this core team. So most of my job in the team was to see how many people are reacting, how they're reacting, contact them, and that's what I did for a really long time. And I really got like really amazing responses from people. All of them, like I had to forward these volunteer forms to people, and we got like hundreds and hundreds of responses. I guess Yash could tell you the figures here. But yes, social media was my way of contacting those people, and it really worked for us. It did.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Since the time we started, we all knew. See, I'm someone who's been in Bombay ever since I'm born, right? and a lot of us, most of us, I would feel, is pretty urban kind of an audience. But we realize this one thing, that our main goal is not only social media. I'll give you a very simple example. This once happened. We created a meme kind of a thing, and a very basic meme. It was about cutting trees and something like that. And I think 3 or 4 weeks later, I saw that same meme printed in an actual rally in Delhi. Again, it is of course urban, but I can totally imagine someone in Hubli, even if they see that, or someone in Tirupur, someone say in Mathura, if they see that and they want to print it and take it to a rally or a protest, or maybe to their minister or MLA's office. I feel this kind of two-way traffic is very important, and we have seen that definitely in a lot of our campaigns. Even recently, we had a very recent campaign which is onboarded, which is for the Vedas Uncle bird sanctuary. And it's not like it's in Chennai, right? It's not in even like Coimbatore. It's again a little out of the way kind of a place. And we have a lot of such campaigns, and our basic criteria has always been so. Again, I'll tell you, today someone mailed us saying these waterfalls in Kerala, they need to be saved, and we are like, see, we are more than happy to do that, but as long as we don't have someone there as a campaigner, we can't do it. It's our very basic criteria, because then there's a huge disconnect. You will see 10,000 people talking about it on social media, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and all that, but the people there, if they don't know what is the kind of support they are getting, I feel it's a huge disconnect. And I think all of us here, we always do that one filter. Okay, do we have someone here? If it is about Bhubaneswar, or if it is about say Hasdeo, which is a place in Chhattisgarh, we try to have a local contact there, so that our the communication traffic is two-way and not just one way. Thanks.
Hello.
Yeah, Terry.
Yeah. So as we all know that, we can reach the urban population easily. Like we have so many other sources, easy sources to reach them. So talking about the rural population, like what measures have you taken to educate them about the environmental issues? Like they are not really educated, as we can see.
Yeah, so I would like to, rephrase it better for, for all of us. There's something that a lot of us believe in, which is we don't need smart cities. We need smart villages. And
Okay.
frankly,
Yeah.
villages are already smart. It's not like they don't know things. If they are not able to do the a typical graduation or post graduation or things like that, does not mean they don't know stuff. I've spoken to people in Bastar. I've spoken to people from Nallamalla. I've spoken to people from places like, Rishikesh would like to
Yash,
tell you more about
sorry, Yash.
Sawantwadi and places like.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Actually, your voice is cracking. There is some disturbance in your voice. Can you just?
Okay.
Yeah.
Rishikesh, was that from you also?
No. I could hear you very clearly.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Just finish your point,
I think
Yash, and
Rishikesh,
pass it to
Yeah. I'm almost done. It's just like it's just that it's not like we are teaching people. We learn a lot when we talk to people in the villages, be it tribals, be it indigenous people, be it forest dwellers. Not like we can always contact them, but whenever we can, we always get these brilliant insights. So I'm hands down saying we learn more than tell them.
Yeah. So I would like to add this thing, that I have lived in urban spaces as well, and I've stayed in rural parts of India as well. I come from Sawantwadi, which is a small town. So one thing that I've noticed is there's a huge lifestyle change, a difference between both these spaces. Rural lifestyle is much more eco-friendly, where we, even on our functions, we don't use plastic plates or plastic whatever. We use leaves basically to even serve dinner and lunch. So there's a huge difference about our perception about rural spaces. Even in rural spaces in India, the central projects, they actually harm the environment more rather than the local projects there. So that we need to understand first before talking about how to educate these people. These people need to get educated about how to oppose these central projects, they already know much more about environment than us, honestly. Even the tribals, they know much more about environment than all of us here. That's where our communication has been, where